YouTube, Northeast Ohio Sports Cards. How's the playoffs treating you so far? You guys having fun? Lakers aren't. Whoops. Uh, we're back today for two main things I wanted to touch on today. I wanted to take a quick look at the guys that have left the bubble or had a rough start to the bubble playoff games. I should say playoff games, not bubble. And guys that had really good first days, and talk about a baseball thing. I've mentioned it in the last couple videos, but I wanted to do a little bit more of a deeper dive on it. So I wanted to look at that too. So let's start. I am recording this on Wednesday afternoon, early afternoon. So we were 2 days into the playoffs. So now that a day had passed, a full day since the first day of the playoffs on Monday, I wanted to see how some of the card prices were moving on guys that performed well and guys that are looking to not move on to the next round potentially. I know it's early; it's only one game, but and then how guys that played really well, how their markets got affected in this new overreaction market that we're in. So the first group of players that I have up on the screen here are guys that are either gone or didn't necessarily. They looked good, but their team didn't. So, very first on the list we have Devin Booker, and I had mentioned Booker in the last couple of videos as an interesting test case for how does the market treat these players that played extremely well but are not moving on. So this data is going back 7 days. So we could see here that Booker, since getting eliminated, basically, is down about 12%. I would say I would expect something like that. He's not playing anymore. The focus shifts off him and onto the other bright, shiny toys running around our television screens. So to me, this seems completely normal and is kind of what I expected. This is going to be one of those cards that I'm going to look at, on a week-to-week basis just to kind of see what it continues to do and to see where it levels off. My guess is it goes down maybe just a little bit more and then flattens. Maybe it gets down to 1100. But I think we're approaching. I think the percentage drop due to exits, I think we're pretty close to it already. So if you're looking to buy Booker, I would keep an eye on prices as they're probably going to flatten out soon. And then watch to see when they start going back up again. If Booker's someone that you want to jump on the barrel on. And once again, I think I'm going to use this as the test case going forward as other guys get dropped out that played relatively well, but just that for whatever reason, only one team's going to end out on top of this whole mess. What to kind of expect in dips on their card prices to see if we can get an idea to predict what the floor is going to be on these guys before things start going back up again as we get deeper into the off season. So the next one is someone that's still playing, Luka. He played exceptionally well in his game. Porzingis got ejected unfairly. That was a joke. But his prices actually dipped down a little bit. He's down 15%, which 15% on Luka is a lot because he was up to $2,000. He had that monster game last weekend, and his prices, monster 2 or 3 games actually, and his prices spiked up over 2K and had been stable there. And then he played really good on Monday, but the team lost. And I don't know if people were just thinking that the Mavs were going to give the Clippers a run for their money and maybe squeak it out. And now they're thinking, oh, you know what? Dummy. They have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. This isn't going to go the way I thought it was going to go, and are looking to get out of the quote-unquote high. or what the deal here is, because um, his price is backed off, but we're going to see on the next slide, just because you lose the game doesn't mean your prices go down. Um, so I found this one kind of curious, especially because I think Luka is one of the best long-term holds there is. I could see this drop happening if they lost, like completely were eliminated from the playoffs, and he was on his way home. But after a one-game loss, I don't know if his market just got a little too overinflated, and this is just a natural correction, regardless of how well he played. Unless they would have won, I have a feeling if they would have won, he would have stayed stable. So I'll be curious to watch his prices too as this series goes on, and where it goes from there, and where we could see him potentially settling in. The next one is Zion. Obviously, he essentially left the bubble a long time ago due to injury / performance and rest. But it looks like we're almost to the flat point. He was upwards of mid to high 800s, and he is now down to just about 600 and slowly creeping down now. I think the major cut has happened, and I think it's still going to continue to drift down slightly, but I think we're getting close to the bottom on Zion before it completely flattens and then slowly starts to tick back up again. It may creep down a little bit more. I could see it maybe getting down to maybe mid fives, but I don't think it goes below 500. I'd be absolutely shocked if his prices went below $500 on a PSA 10 Prism. So, but now we can see here, this is like, Booker's basically a week removed from being eliminated. Zion's essentially 2 weeks removed from being eliminated. His first week's fall was much greater because he looked like crap and the team looked like crap. But now his second or almost third week fall is much less. So he's beginning to approach that bottom as people are either slowly not selling as much, and also people are beginning to buy it up as it gets to a price point that they feel targetable. Next one up is Ja, little Morant action. He went out about as best as you possibly could have for not making the playoffs. Him and Booker both did. His prices have actually basically, he kind of yo-yoed a little bit. He was up over 600. Then they started playing poorly, and it looked like they weren't going to make the playoffs, and he dipped down a little bit prior to them actually getting eliminated. And now you could see he's actually leveled off and is kind of slowly creeping back up. I don't think he gets back up over 600, and in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this dips back down again. But I could see him leveling out at around the mid fives, low fives. I don't think this number sustains. He probably comes off just a little bit, but probably not much. I think Ja's off-season floor is between 500 and this current price, and I don't even know that it gets down to 500. Actually, I should take that back. You could find them for 500. I've seen them listed on some Facebook ads and stuff for 500. But buying off eBay, the seller saves 10% in fees, so there's some price discrepancies there on what it's selling for versus what it's actually worth. But I don't think he dips below much 500. He looked extremely good in that game. So, and then the other interesting one, I did not actually mean to include this. Market Movers pulled it because I put in 2019 Prism when I put Luka in, is his second year card. And I found this one interesting as something to apply looking forward on this second year stuff. So the second year cards have become a thing all of a sudden across the board. And what I noticed here is his took a bloodbath. It dropped 40%, and this is in 7 days. It started the week at 410 and is now ending the week at 240 with a high of 500 in the middle there for a day. And the sell-off hit hard and fast here. I think the second year stuff is going to be trendy, but I also think when the bottom, and not like the bottom's falling out on Luka, but when the prices begin to move on these guys, they're going to move more aggressively the farther you move away from the mainline card. Luka's mainline card is his PSA 10 base Prism, 2018 rookie. And then the further you move away from that, I think the sell-off is going to be harder and faster. So, you drop down the Optic, then Select, whatever else. Then you move into a second-year stuff, his second-year Prism. Non-silver is like the gold standard of the second-year stuff. And we can see that one took a lot harder hit. Now, I don't have a graph for this, but as we're all well aware, the Lakers looked like crap last night and lost to the Blazers. I will say, if you have a stockpile of the LeBron Prisms 2019 with his first Lakers stuff, whether it's Prisms, Optic, Mosaic, whatever you got laying around, that's the quote-unquote first-year LeBron Lakers, and you got in cheap and you've made a real nice return on it, I would start, this is me personally, I would start selling portions of that off to protect yourself. Because I think if the Lakers don't make it, that's going to be the stuff that absolutely nosedives. LeBron's 03 Topps Chrome might take a very slight hit, but it's not going to be a major one. I don't think anyway. And there's, not that many people are into that card anyways because of the price point. But a lot of you might be you picked up LeBron base Prisms, base Optics, base Mosaics for $5 or $10 a piece. And his base Prism got up to $80 or $90. I think it's already down to $75 or $65. I did not look. I should have. But I would not hesitate if you're in a large position of first year Lakers LeBron stuff, and you made good money. If you got 10 of them, I'd sell 3 or 4 right now. Maybe I look like an idiot in 4 or 5 weeks when they're cruising through the Western Conference Finals. And I'm not saying they're going to lose to the Blazers, but you see the holes in that team real quick after watching that game last night. Whereas maybe they get by the Blazers, but they got a long way to go. The West is loaded. You got the Clippers, assuming they beat the Mavs. You got the Rockets or the Thunder. You got the Jazz or the Nuggets. Like, the Western Conference is stacked. And they did not look good. So if I had massive gains on LeBron Lakers stuff, I'm going to start locking some of that stuff in. You sell some this round. If they make it to next round, great. His prices probably go back up a little bit again. You sell another little chunk. Basically portion control it out and sell it off in waves. I'm sure there's probably a fancy economics term for this, but it's lost on me at the moment. So that's what I'm starting to do. I already sold off some LeBron stuff leading up to this series. I had a bunch of LeBron base Mosaics. I have a bunch of Optics I think I'm going to list tonight on auction. I normally don't like doing auctions, but I think I'm just going to throw it up there at a 7-day auction and see what happens. If he starts playing well, maybe the prices skyrocket. If he doesn't, maybe I lose a little bit of money on it. But I have a plan with LeBron stuff going forward, and I would like to lock in some of the great returns that I've gotten on that stuff already. So that's my LeBron Lakers take. So let's talk about guys going up. We got a couple guys that played extremely well on the first full day. I'm not going to talk a lot about yesterday's stuff because the market hasn't quite fully reacted to the Tuesday games yet. So let's stick to Monday. I just got 3 players to talk about really quick. 2 for the Celtics, Jalen and Tatum. And then the third one is Donovan Mitchell. Now, Mitchell's the interesting one. You can see all 3 of these guys basically went up 20 to 30%. Tatum's base Prism PSA 10 blew through $1,000. His select stuff up, his optic stuff, all his stuff is up across the board. Brown, same way. The interesting one is Mitchell. I mean, he looked absolutely fantastic. And maybe because their team lost, and they could beat the Nuggets, but I don't know that I see it. I think the Nuggets are the better team. So I don't know if this is more, everyone talks about Mitchell being hidden away in Utah, and most people don't ever really see him. So if it's just like a market correction on that, or people thinking that they have a chance in that series, and they have a chance, but it's interesting that his stuff went way up on a loss, but Luka's went down on a loss, and they both played really well. They both put up huge stat lines. So Mitchell could be just part market correction to bring him up to where he should be anyway, compared to other players of his level. But it'll be interesting to track his prices. So those three went up. Water's wet. Guys played well. They won, and their prices went up, except for the Mitchell one. So that is those three guys. We're not going to spend a ton of time on those guys because it's fairly obvious. Let's transition into baseball really quick. So I mentioned this before a couple times about I don't play in the baseball market very much, so I don't know the ins and outs. So I will preface everything I'm about to say with that statement. Maybe I'm completely wrong on some of this stuff, but maybe this is a fresh set of eyes looking at this baseball market from an outsider perspective, which probably a lot of people are. So, as we all know, basketball brought a ton of people to the sports card market. Okay? They've been buying and selling basketball cards for the last 6 months, whether it's Gary Vee, the pandemic, a combination of all the things, whatever you want to chalk it up to. Regardless, a lot of new people have come into the investing in the hobby since March. And it's primarily been basketball. So now, baseball's in full swing. And we had the Soto explosion last week, and that's what set me down this whole wormhole to begin with. So I looked to buy some Soto that night. He was going crazy. We've heard the story a bunch of times. I've talked about it on the channel already. And my gut reaction, coming from basketball and not knowing baseball well, was to go for the Chrome. They were priced the same. The Chrome was actually a little bit cheaper. And I was like, the Chrome's cheaper. This is weird. So I asked around to some people that know baseball, that primarily focus on baseball, and they're like, no. The paper flagship, this card right here, is the gold standard. That's the flagship rookie, as the baseball guys like to call it. The Chrome is the pretender to the crown. It's the second place guy. And that's this one. They're identical cards, just one's glossy, one's chrome, and one's paper. The paper is a tougher grade, et cetera, is one of the reasons for it, and just the tradition of, Topps baseball cards being paper. But then something weird happened, and that was, now this data, the chart here, you can see the pink line is the chrome, the blue line is the paper. For whatever reason, it's missing 2 days worth of data. I am not sure why. I went back and looked. Excuse me. I went back and looked at eBay sales from yesterday, and they are still trending above the paper. The ones that sold yesterday were anywhere between $290 and $300, and the average yesterday for the paper was $289. So it's just barely. And you can see these two cards. This is going back 14 days, and I could blow this chart back 90 days. These two cards stay close, but the pink line almost never crosses the blue until just recently when his stuff went nuts. So if we come down here, we could see over the last 14 days that his Chrome card is up 65% versus the paper card being up 52%. And this is actually a little low because this ending average should be closer to 300, not 278, because it's missing that 2 days worth of data. So this ending average should or this change percentage should actually be a few points higher. My speculation is on this, and I could be wrong, but I can't be the only one that's in the sports card game, primarily basketball, that was like, man, this Soto guy is cool. I should get some of his stuff. Gary Vee's tweeting about him. All the social media sports card stuff's talking about him. Let me hop on this Soto bandwagon. And they go Google up or whatever. Okay, 2018 Topps is his rookie, and they go to look and they see Topps paper and they see Topps chrome, and if they don't know someone in the baseball hobby that's follows it day to day, they're going to look at it and go, well, I buy Prism basketball, I buy Optic basketball, I buy Mosaic. Those are all shiny. They look nice. I don't go buy Donruss paper Zion or Donruss paper Luka or the new Chronicles stuff that's mostly paper. That stuff's dirt cheap. No one wants that. This is weird that they're, priced relatively the same and the pop count's even lower on the chrome. This is a no-brainer. Let me gobble up this chrome stuff. This is sweet. These dumb baseball people don't even know what they're doing. So my theory is that's what's happening. New money is beginning to flow from basketball to baseball, and the new money doesn't care that paper Topps is the flagship rookie. They came from a basketball mindset of chrome cards, chrome cards, chrome cards, and they jump over to here and gobble up the chrome. So you see the bigger percentage changes there. And like I said, that number should even be higher. So let's look at someone else. Let's look at Tatis. Tatis Jr., his stuff's also been going crazy. And what do you know? We see the exact same thing. Pink line is his chrome. Blue line is his regular. And once again, I could blow this backwards. They're always close, but there's always a little bit of a gap where the paper's almost always in the lead until just recently when Tatis went nuts this last week and a half. And look what happened here. His chrome blows through the paper and is now leading the charge. It dipped back down again a little bit here, but then he went bonkers and hit like 2 home runs the other night. And we're seeing a widening of the gap. So if we come down here and look at this, over the last 14 days, his paper's up 135%, started at 115, ended at 272. His chrome's up 175 or 172%, almost 175%. It's going for almost 300. And this never used to be like this before. This has just happened this last 2 weeks. And I asked around again to people that, follow the baseball hobby a lot closer. And I said, how weird is this that the chromes are now the leading market indicator on these couple hot players? And they said that is not normal. So what has changed this year compared to previous years to break that norm? And I think it's the new money. So now let's spin this forward. How can we use this to our advantage? Let's look at Cody Bellinger. The first thing I noticed here, and once again, I could be talking out of my rear on this one because I don't know the baseball market that well, but it seems really weird to me. Look at Soto's graph. And like I said, let me look here. I'll show you. Let's do this. This is going back to January as soon as it loads. Look how close those two lines are together. Pink and blue. Pink is the paper. Blue is the chrome. They're almost right next to each other. Let's look at Tatis. Very close together. The pink is the chrome. The blue is the paper on this chart. You can see there's a little gap there. Then you can see, if we look back here, back in May, they get closer together. This gap narrows the further we go throughout the year. Soto's is pretty close the entire time, but Tatis's narrows the closer we get to the current date until it eventually passes it. Now look at Bellinger's. It was very close together. Paper pulled out, dropped back down, and then, as you go along there, the gap continues to widen. Paper's inflated way up here. Chrome never really moved. Well, now the paper's been coming down because he hasn't been playing that well. He's batting like 200. But Chrome had a little dip here, but is basically maintain stability. So let's look at the last 14 days on Bellinger, and you see over the last 14 days, his chrome has barely moved while his paper is down 36%. So not knowing the baseball market well enough, I don't know what's happening here to explain this. Is it the traditional baseball people are seeing that Bellinger's not playing well and are starting to sell him off, and they're selling off his paper? Meanwhile, the new money is saying, hey, that chrome stuff's cool. I'm just getting in the baseball. I don't have any Bellinger. Let me buy up some of him, and they're keeping the price flat? Or is it just a market correction that, why is this gap so big, but on these other players the gap is so tight that now Bellinger's starting to come into the norm? So I don't know if it's a case that, is Bellinger a buying opportunity on his chrome? Or is this paper going to keep coming down to market correct with the chrome, and now they're going to be close together? So I think it's worth keeping an eye on if you want to play in the baseball side of things. So let's look at the next one, and this is one that I have been moving on because his prices got low. And this is a weird one. There's not a direct correlation like there is, where these two cards are identical. And that's Acuna. So Ronald Acuna Jr. has the famous bat down card, which I did not put on this chart because it sells for an astronomical amount of money because it's super short printed. It's very hard to find. But that's like his gold standard rookie. That's his Prism Luka version of his rookie card, but it's paper. It goes for almost $2,000 to $3,000. It's ridiculously expensive. But he has his more quote-unquote normal rookie, which is the 18 Topps update at bat blue jersey. Baseball stuff is so damn confusing for what rookie cards are. This one goes for around $200. And then he has two chromes, but they're not carbon copies. He has the Topps update, but then his Topps update chrome is him. It's a different pitcher. And then he has a regular Topps chrome where he's batting. So this one goes for about $200. And these both go for, you can get these for sub $100 right now. I've been regularly buying up this card specifically at anything $90 or less. I've gotten 2 or 3 of them at least. They're not all here yet. I've been buying them. And I've been looking to get these if the price is right. He did not start the season well, and then he just went on the DL about a week ago with wrist discomfort. So this might be a little bit risky, but we're going to see what happens. He's potentially supposed to return this weekend. My theory is if he gets hot, like a Soto-like streak, which Acuna is perfectly capable of doing, his prices are going to skyrocket. If we go back 60 days on this chart, you can see the highs here. 179, 159, 300. They're currently at 90, 80, 220. They peaked around 30 days ago, I believe. Not quite, but you get the point. He's slid back quite a bit because he wasn't playing well. So my thought process is if he turns it around and he goes wild, that, yeah, this one's going to go up, but I think these ones have potential to go up just because he's playing well and also that influx of the basketball money. I could be completely wrong on all of this. I'm purely speculating here. On one, that Acuna is going to come back and play well, and two, that if he does, that my theory is correct, that this new money is going to flow into the chrome cards and not the paper, and maybe break some norms. So, those are the two big things I wanted to talk about today. This video probably went extremely long, but hopefully it was helpful for you guys. YouTube stuff down below. Like, comment, sub, all that jazz. We are rapidly approaching 600 subscribers. And then the next thing I'm going to do, I think my next video might be similar to this, because I think, actually, I know, I'm almost positive, this same thing is happening to football, where this new money from the craze the last 6 months is affecting the football market in ways that the football market hasn't been affected in the past. It's breaking the norms of the football market. And we're beginning to see that already in price fluctuations. So I think the next video I do may be on some football stuff and how I think the market is beginning to affect that, breaking their normal market conditions. So if you guys have any questions, leave them down below. I try to answer just about everything that I can get to. But that's all I have for you guys. We will catch you on the next one, and peace.